Today is a glorious day because we have a new Marvel Disney Plus show with Loki, and it is time officially to get into some pure chaos. Hey, and welcome back to They Love. If you don't know, I'm Destiny, and today this is my episode 1 spoiler deep dive theory video for Loki. I will be doing these weekly, and again, this entire video is going to be a spoiler video, so if you haven't watched the show, please watch the episode, experience it yourself, it's very good, and then come back and watch this video. I did write a non-spoiler review on Daily Planet, so I will link that, but this video is just going to the Easter eggs and my personal theories and anything like that. So honestly, let's just get straight into this. I really want to talk about this episode. I have watched it several times because it's actually really rewatchable. I was not expecting that. So I just want to again go through the episode and give I feel like that with this first episode is more theories than straight out Easter eggs. There are a couple things that I noticed, but in terms of like Marvel Easter eggs, and I feel like this video will be more like my personal theories. But again, like, watch the episode before you watch this video. You will not be disappointed. I wasn't. I think it's interesting. What I found, so many things that I found interesting, but the first thing is the Miss Minutes video that explained finally the multiverse and how there was a multiversal war. And I love this video because it's so propaganda-y. But I think there is a part of the video where it says that these 3 timekeepers created a single timeline, and also we hear the word nexus again. In this case, a nexus event, not a nexus being like Wanda. Nexus meaning like chaos, basically. That's my simplest way of explaining it. But what I found most interesting about the Miss Minutes video is that to me it mostly felt like propaganda, and then that it finally mentioned the multiverse in like a clear way, you know. And another thing, okay, I wanted to get this out of the way because in the show it flashes back to, I think it's 1549 France, and there's a crime scene, and this is where we see Mobius, and he is investigating a crime where some variant, at this point we don't know, is targeting the different employees at the Time Variance Authority. I want to get this out of the way because we see a picture, or like stained glass of a devil with a blue mouth. And a lot of people are saying this is Mephisto. Honestly, I got so burned by Mephisto. I'll believe when I see it. I can't do it again, you guys. But I thought it was interesting that the devil had a blue mouth. So if I had another theory that wasn't Mephisto, I think this could be a reference, especially with the horns too. But well, okay, I just don't. I'll believe Mephisto when I see it. So if it's not Mephisto, and if it's a devil with a blue mouth, I think it could be a reference to Loki, and maybe even a reference to frost giants, which Loki is. So that is my kind of theory that is like a version of Loki that we saw in the stained glass. If it's not Mephisto, again, I just want to note with this episode, I love how the TVA apparently in both the Eternals just ignore major events and left it all up to the Avengers. When you think about that, it's just hilarious, but not hilarious, because what's going on here? And honestly, when I noticed that, it kind of leads into my theory and what I think is going to be explored in the show with Loki as well, like Loki the character and Loki the show. And again, it's not even really a theory, but just from watching episode 1, I don't trust the TVA whatsoever. I have learned in my long life to not trust bureaucrats, honestly. First of all, a whole organization that says they're the authority over time, and there's these timekeepers, and the way they do it in the show. And then we have the pruning versus resetting. Pruning means you're just dead, and resetting means the timeline is reset, and there's a kind of another version of you where you never became a variant. I think that's what resetting is. I think. But the TVA doesn't make any sense. It literally doesn't make any sense, because I was watching the episode, and again, I actually did watch this episode several times. It's very rewatchable. But I think that's on purpose for the TVA not to make any sense in the writing. Because the reason why I don't trust the TVA is because I honestly feel they're just picking and choosing what to investigate to create their perfect timeline, not really, and they're kind of just saying it's their sacred timeline. Because think about this, it doesn't make any sense that the Avengers, and Loki did point this out, that the Avengers can travel through time and not be variants, because that kind of implies that the Avengers fixing the snap means that the snap was never meant to happen. So doesn't that mean that Thanos himself would be a variant once he like snapped his fingers? So why is what the Avengers did okay and they're not variants, but Loki's a variant or this other person is a variant? Like, what is the authority going on here? I just don't trust them. I think they're lording over others, and it could really be just Kang behind the scenes. Now next, I want to talk about Loki's therapy session. I think it's, and I'm not even saying that in a funny way, he really did get like a therapy session. Like, and I feel like a lot of, well, Wanda's therapy session was more you know, like a metaphor from what she went through. In the session, I think it's more of a Loki and Mobius tit for tat. And I love this whole session because, especially after rewatching the episode and with the context of the end of the episode, I think Mobius is really trying to emphasize, and it kind of works, that Loki can't go back to his timeline, so that Loki will be like more willing to work with Mobius and like, you know, what's his purpose now, in that kind of way. And I also think, again, with the context of the end of the episode, that Mobius wanted to interview a version of Loki, this Loki, the variant, in front of him to better understand the variant of Loki he's chasing, whatever Loki that is. I love Owen Wilson in this. I think he's a great Mobius, and I think he plays Mobius perfectly as like being cunning and intelligent, but also having like an open, he's a great interviewer. He's a great interviewer with Loki and like having like an open disposition, but also being able to go back and forth with Loki himself. It's so emotionally manipulative, intentionally again, showing the death of Loki's mother, that Loki was indirectly responsible for in a way, even though he thought he was targeting Thor. But when he sent the people to, you know, find Thor and gave them directions. And Mobius in this therapy like it's a therapy session for Loki, but it's definitely not like Mobius isn't just doing this to do this. He's really framing him and the TVA as Loki's only hope in a way. He's, again, very emotionally manipulative. So, and this one episode, so I'm excited to see what more there is to Mobius, because you can clearly see there's even more to Mobius. Oh yeah, another funny thing I wanted to note was DB Cooper. I think from the trailers we all thought that whatever Loki went through with the TVA, that would reveal how Loki was DB Cooper. I thought it was funny that it was just a flashback. If you don't know, Cooper was this man who hijacked a plane, I think in the 1970s, and he collected a ransom of like $200,000, and he just escaped. Like, he escaped off the plane, and no one knows who he actually was. So, but it was revealed that it was actually Loki in the show, when they did that because he lost the bet to Thor. And what was the bet? I really want to know what kind of bet it was that you did this. But again, I think it also pointed out again, why was this event of Loki hijacking a whole plane, interfering with these people's lives, and, you know, then just disappearing, because they did investigate and try to find DB Cooper. So why would that be okay, but then you're choosing, like, again, just cherry picking what is good and what is not good for this sacred timeline. Oh yeah, in the TVA, magic cannot be used, which I also find fascinating, but the TVA has multiple versions of Infinity Stones because obviously they're from different timelines. And that's when, it was a great moment, by the way. Tom Hiddleston did a great job with this, where he realizes just how powerful the TVA is. And I think that's the moment where he decides to stay. How do you have multiple versions of Infinity Stones? I guess, again, like, yeah, I just don't trust the TVA. That is my main theory you should take from this video. I don't trust the TVA, and I don't think you should trust the TVA either. So after Loki leaves like Mobius and everyone on like a wild goose chase, he goes back to the interrogation room, I think. And it's, again, fantastic because at the end of the day, who would really be able to resist, looking at their own life and see, especially a person like Loki? I think this is a fantastic sequence. And it was so sad because he sees his mother's death kind of again, his father's death, but he also sees parts of what happens in Thor Ragnarok, and where he and Thor are finally fighting side by side, and they are, they're reconciled. But the biggest moment here is when Loki, he sees his own death. But I want to know, I wish Loki had seen that he had, like, it was a self-sacrifice moment where he was protecting Thor and the other Avengers. I don't know if that was clear to Loki and just from what the clip that they showed, but Tom Hiddleston was perfect here because he's going through these range of emotions from like pure sadness to kind of happiness when he sees Thor and himself in the future reconciling, and then just to anger, disappointment when he sees his own death, and oh my gosh, when he sees his death by Thanos and realizes that it wasn't a glorious death, it wasn't in a blaze of glory, and he kind of died in kind of a small way, even though he wasn't aware that it was like a whole self-sacrifice moment. Oh wow, it's so heartbreaking. And when it says end of file, which could also mean end of life, oh no, it was so sad. I think Tom Hiddleston did such a great job with this entire scene. And later, Mobius finally finds Loki, and again, Loki cannot use the Tesseract, and he admits at this point that he doesn't enjoy hurting people, and it's a callback to earlier on because he accuses the TVA of being like part of illusion. He says it's a cruel, elaborate trick conjured by the weak to inspire fear, and then at this part, he says this again, but talking about himself. This episode was a lot of emotional catharsis for Loki, and I feel like honestly a lot of, again, these Marvel Disney Plus shows not only diving deeper into characters but also being just emotional catharsis. And I thought it's very sad because it's very hard to step outside of yourself, and realize what really makes you act the way you do and what makes you lash out. But I guess it's semi-easier when you literally have your whole life in front of you with the recordings. But at this point, Mobius says that he doesn't see Loki as a villain, and I believe Mobius, but at the same time, I still think he's being emotionally manipulative to get what he wants. Because at this point, that's when he reveals that the variant they're searching for is a Loki, like a version of Loki, and that's why he needs Loki's help. Oh, by the way, my theory for this Loki, I actually wonder if it's Lady Loki. I don't really have a theory for what Loki it is, honestly. I love Mobius, man. I love the way Mobius comes off as, wanting to help, and again saying, oh, I don't see you, Loki, as a villain. I don't see it that way. But then again, you keep this information hidden of why you even gave him a second chance in the first place. Oh, it's because of another Loki. You need his help as a Loki. So man, I can't wait for next episode just to see, because you don't get to see Loki's whole reaction to knowing that, and how we'll see because I want to see Loki with his powers again. There's no magic in the TVA, so I really want to see Loki with his full power set. I can't wait to get into the show. But the last thing I wanted to know is the last scene of the show, and it goes to 1800s Oklahoma. And okay, did anyone else find it strange that some of the people from the Time Variance Authority, or the TVA, they travel back to this time, and they just think it's someone who has their own time machine and, travel back to the 1800s to get rich and get the oil and everything. But they don't investigate it because if they just say it's not the paperwork. But if someone has a whole time machine, wouldn't that make it a big event? Because if that's what you think, they have a whole time machine. How is this not strange enough to investigate? So again, I think the TVA is cherry picking. I really think the TVA is cherry picking what to do. And even though at the end he says that thing about himself about being, conjured by the weak to inspire fear, and he says it about himself, I still agree with Loki in his original assessment of the TVA, and I would not trust them. I don't trust the TVA at all, just with this one episode. But at this point, the other Loki, we don't see them. They're, in a hood. They ambush the TVA employees and they take that little timeline reset, and that's what they've been collecting. So that's all we have for this episode. Again, those are just honestly, my main theory is not to trust the TVA. With Mobius, he isn't. I think Mobius is in the green zone. I do love Mobius because I do love Owen Wilson as Mobius. Oh yeah, and another random thing that I want to note: the end credits of this show. Honestly, the end credits of, again, all the Marvel shows, but this show in particular, I really love the end credits. They're so gorgeous, and I sat through and watched them when the show ended. It was great. So again, those are my early theories for Loki and just my overall thoughts on the show. Again, I mean, if you watched this far in the video, you've already been spoiled pretty much. But if you want to read my review of the show, is on the Daily Planet. I'll link that in the description. So I want to hear what you guys think. Do you guys have any early theories? Do you think it's actually Mephisto? I don't even want to get into that conversation. I've been burned by Mephisto theories. Yeah, so what do you guys think of the episode and Loki? I really enjoyed it. And what are your early theories of Loki?